Hey guys, welcome to the Impact. It's me, Dia, joined once again by RMC, and this covers a lot of UGP because most of it happened in the last couple days. In this last week since we recorded our last episode. In RMC, we have got a lot to talk about. I want to just bring up on screen all of the matches that have happened over this past week because holy moly! I mean, we started off with games like Maryville versus Supernova, Golden Guardians Academy versus Dignitas Mirage, and we went all the way into the grand finals that went to all 5 games.
I don't even want to count how many games
Oh
that
my
were played, but it
god.
was Monday through Friday, 11 matches with a bunch of best of fives, a bunch of best of threes. There were a ton here. It did ultimately boil down to that sort of academy finish that we were expecting, missing CLG Academy, but with a twist because TSM Academy wasn't there either. And it was Golden Guardians versus Dignitas Academy. But up to that point, while the amateur teams were in, there was a lot to process here.
There really was, and I'm gonna get right to it. I'm gonna chomp on the meat of the subject, which is for me, the match to watch. That's something that with all of the games that happened, we're gonna be focusing in on just a few things because otherwise, where are we gonna go? My match to watch personally came relatively late in the week. It was Zeus versus Golden Guardians Academy, and I picked that one because, of course, Golden Guardians Academy were about to, unbeknownst to us, go on to then beat TSM Academy. But moreover, the Zeus versus Golden Guardians Academy series showed us a lot of what we were talking about last week in terms of the differences between amateur and academy teams. We got to see that adaptability from academy really tested going up against one of the best teams in amateur.
Zeus were the last amateur team left in the tournament. This was as deep as the amateur teams made it here. And even then, Zeus just barely missed the mark. It was a 2-3 win for Golden Guardians. Zeus took them to that game 5 here. And like you said, Tia, I wholeheartedly agree. It shows that the foundations of the academy teams are still strong. This was why I had them rated fairly highly when we were first looking at UGP here. Yes, Zeus Resolve has amazing highs, but can they consistently perform right now? Apparently not. Still, it was a close game, and I do think that going into the Proving Grounds as well, with the seeding that they do have, there's still a shot for Zeus to make a pretty decent run into the actual Proving Grounds themselves.
Yeah, I mean, they have before, right? We'll remember Zeus from last year, and that was pretty scary in and of itself, and had a lot of narrative going into this year. But I want to ask you, of course, as well, RMC, because we did have 11 games. Of all of those 11 games, where did you find yourself most excited throughout the week?
Honestly, I think I was most excited at the beginning of the week, on Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was actually, when we saw teams like Maryville and Supernova go head-to-head. Golden Guardians Academy versus Digmig, another hyped one. A little bit less hype for me because, I mean, Golden Guardians Academy was expected to take it. They are in the Academy team. But Maryville Supernova, that was the hyped matchup. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the posters that Valley made with the tagline that Cubby created, the heart of amateur versus the top of the collegiate. And that was a hype match. It also was the match that punched Supernova's tickets into the actual Proving Grounds tournament. So that was a hype one. The actual games were absolutely great. I think Deserux was almost losing his voice by the end of it. It's also my clip to watch from this week, the ending of game 2, where Supernova... Well, I won't spoil it just yet because we will be watching it later.
Come on, man.
But trust me, it was an epic ending.
You brought it up, and I see no reason why we should delay. It's our show, and we can watch clips if we want to. I want to take a look at one of your most exciting moments of this past week was, and I'm going to do it right now with the Maryville versus Supernova clip you just mentioned. Maryville look like they're about to win the game here. Like, especially with the Elder Dragon ticket, like, how ridiculously close was this game? And I can see very much how it is that this was the series that excited you the most, because I can hear it in the casters' voices that they're losing their minds.
They fall! Supernova will rise!
Yeah, and I mean, the setup, like you said, Elder was in the hands of Maryville there. Strumpus was not back at his base. He was looking to try and base race as a rise of all things here. And you could see Strumpus was hesitating. Do I go back to base? Do I go and help out this 4v5? And ultimately, Supernova win that 4v5 against an Elder Drake as well. They take the game. And what better ending could it be? Like I said, this is definitely a series I would recommend people go back and watch because it was incredibly hyped from start to finish. The stakes were good as well. The stories were great.
And if it's all right, I'm going to talk about my Rise because
Okay.
Rise was a pick that ultimately had me nominating an MVP, and I'm going to have a moment to have you watch Saligo in what is maybe not one of the most hype moments of the entire tournament, but was a fight that was demonstrably in his control.
Okay, so let's run the clip here. Okay. At Baron, always a dicey situation.
And
Okay.
at this point, game's pretty even, right?
Mm-hmm. Only 3 kills at 26 minutes.
I know, right? It was such a slow game. I was like constantly checking in as I was like, there's no way that more people haven't died.
What?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm a little bit surprised because this feels like a color caster clip more than a play-by-play clip. It's
Yeah, it's not the most hype moment, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll agree. And last time, I nominated somebody who had already been eliminated, and well, it was very exciting. I wanted to take a different approach and try and nominate somebody from the winning team, right? So, somebody that did actually manage to carry their team over that finish line, and nothing says that more than a victory in the finals.
And I love the fact, we brought up the fact that with 3 kills at 26 minutes. This is game 5. This is when
Mhm.
all the chips are down. These are the grand finals. This was the match to end the entire UGP there. And that is, I think, the majority of the bracket here. There is one more match I want to draw our eyes to a little bit here,
Mhm.
Dia, which some might have missed because it wasn't on the main schedule here. It's the 5th, 6th place match, Supernova versus Resolve. And these are now in PG the 2 lowest seeded teams. But I do want to highlight it as well a little bit because I do feel we should be giving credit to these amateur teams. And Supernova lost 0-3, but from what I understand, they were playing with Rovex as a sub with
Yeah.
short notice. So going into Proving Grounds, I see this as an asset to them rather than a liability. There's a chance that they overperform massively and maybe catch Academy teams by surprise. They did it before against GG Academy the first time they met. The second time, unfortunately, Golden Guardians had their number. And one of the craziest things about the match that actually knocked Resolve down to face Supernova was the fact that they rematched against Golden Guardians Academy. And we're talking about catching teams by surprise. There is a particular draft I do want to highlight here, and that is their Game 3 draft.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you look at the draft right here, Dia, let's just look at the draft here. It's already crazy enough that there's no ranged AD carries for either team. But you look at Resolve draft and kind of go, okay, there's a Ziggs. That's probably going to be the AP carry.
Yeah.
Surprise, it's not. If you watch the game here, it ultimately has APA going to the bot lane with Rel for Winter here for the double mounted bot lane. And for the side of Golden Guardians Academy, I love the fact that they dropped the Diana Yasuo and you're like, okay, that's that vaunted jungle mid combo. Again, surprise, it's not. R5 Rise, Yasuo goes into the bot lane. So to me, I love this. It's the heart of amateur, right? Like amateur is willing to do weird wonky things with the drop, catch you by surprise. And I think that Golden Guardians Academy was willing to do the same, speaks volumes about them. And I love to see the Academy teams adapt this way rather than just play their traditional game, to go outside their comfort zone and join the madness. I want to see more of that in PG.
You know, exactly what you talked about actually really interests me because the fact that Golden Guardians did end up adapting in that way in that series and then went on to face Zeus, I think did them a lot of favors. Like
True.
the sort of adaptation phase that they went through with Resolve while still ultimately being able to take that series, going into a match against Zeus that we talked about a little bit earlier before, was a really interesting series ultimately, but I think that the mentalities from Zeus coming out of a match with Supernova and Golden Guardians coming out of their match with Resolve was something that we could talk a little bit more about when it ties into how Zeus versus GGA ultimately played out.
I think it benefited Golden Guardians Academy a lot more than it necessarily did Zeus. Zeus facing Supernova, I mean, that was good for Zeus to a certain extent, but I don't think it prepared them as much to face Academy teams because Supernova, their drafts are amazing too. I love Coach Koso's drafts. They're kind of weird, kind of wonky at times, but there's usually really solid logic behind it. Still not a fan of Senna Gwen bot lane, but I'll excuse that for the reasons that it was kind of a rush last minute thing. But yeah, I think that didn't necessarily help Zeus get into the right frame of mind to deal with Golden Guardians Academy, who likes to play more standard. But for Golden Guardians Academy, as you pointed out, I mean, when you see those weird drafts coming through from Resolve, it kind of reminds you that, hey, amateur teams like to play a lot of comfort, a lot of, specialty picks. And so I think going into Zeus, they were much more prepared for things that we don't see, like Alorum's Urgot, for example.
The nice thing is, though, that even after that matchup, despite the fact that Zeus lost, they still did end up qualifying for Proving Grounds. And now,
True.
RMC, we get the chance to take a look at all of the teams that have qualified for Proving Grounds, having finalized our Tier 1 tournament. And with Proving Grounds on the horizon, only 2 weeks away, I think starting on August 2nd.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see, of course, the academy teams are at the top here, but because of the seeding, the teams that qualified first actually have higher seeding. There's, of course, Wildcard Red, C9 Amateur, AOE Esports, and 100 Thieves Knicks already securing their spots. And because of this, they're seeded higher than these academy teams, Dignitas, Golden Guardians, and TSM Academy, which could make for some interesting academy matchups in the first round of Proving Grounds.
Yeah, they'll be facing off against each other like the Spider-Men that point at each other. It's you again. And and honestly, I really like, even though we haven't had the brackets released yet, that we could get some of those teams that would otherwise be more highly favored knocking each other out before things start. I know that sounds kind of weird, but with the start of UGP, for example, we had a lot of the high seed teams placed against the low seed teams, and a lot of the first day was very self-explanatory, I think, is the best way to put it. And going into PG, I'm not expecting those first matches to be nearly as one-sided because of the way that seeding based off the tournaments has impacted the seeding going into this one.
That's funny, Dia, because I actually have the opposite point of view. I think the seeding messed up things. It is actually going to result, I think, in a lot of academy teams facing amateur teams, and I actually think it's going to be rather one-sided. We don't have power rankings this week, but I'm going to continue my hot takes.
Yeah,
That's
please.
going to be my hot take on this one here, is that I think the first round is actually going to be quite clear-cut. There's only going to be maybe 1 or 2 matches where things might get a little bit dicey with how things goes. That is, of course, with the caveat that Resolve, Supernova, Zeus, teams like this don't pop off. They are the lowest 3-seeded teams here, which I find horribly amusing because Zeus is amazing. We talked about the fact that Resolve has amazingly high highs, and if they could beat GG Academy the first time, there's a chance they can, surprise, maybe not TL or C9 Academy, which is probably who they're going to end up facing, but could be some good games. And Supernova here, as the last seed coming in, you know what? Supernova's used to being discounted. They're used to being overlooked, and it showed in the interviews they had with Maddie and Strompus there. I want to see them surprise the top seed once again, TL Academy, with wild picks, and maybe you catch them off guard.
I am going to depart from you in the Resolve sort of theory. I don't think that Resolve is going to make it nearly as far. They haven't earned my faith yet. But if I'm going to pick a team much like Resolve to say, you know what? Maybe they'll overperform and that'll take them to a place that nobody expected, I have to be thinking about AOE Esports. People are going to be upset at me for this. The reality is that at the top of their game, I wouldn't necessarily be able to call a game between them and say wildcard, because an AOE that is performing at peak level, I think its peak is higher than wildcards excluding Arrow, and yeah. A wildcard without Arrow, it's from LCK. Yeah. I'm not bitter about it.
I don't know if this is a threat that you're coming after Arrow here, do you? Like you're taking him out to the AOE community?
I love you, Arrow. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I will say this, though, dear. Unfortunately, I believe in the first round, C9 Amateur will actually be facing off against AOE Esports. So the two teams you're looking to make, surprise performances.
It's win-win.
Somebody's got to fall in that round 1 there. But definitely a match to keep your eyes on. I do think that will be one of the closer matches in that round 1 here. So yeah, I would agree with you. If AOE Esports shows up, that they can go deep. C9 Amateur, I mean, likewise, they have shown quite a bit of skill as well in their play. So yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that is probably a better take than Resolve. But if Resolve makes it, that's a hotter take. And I want it on it.
It's spicier. And you know what? We're going to get plenty of chance to revisit this, because this is sort of our wrap up of UGP episode, but we're going to have a now presenting PG episode just coming up, I think, next week. So we'll have plenty of time to do a little bit more research on the academy teams, at least from my end, because I haven't seen them play nearly as much,
Same.
and get more data to see how they'll match up against amateur teams, so we can fully break things down for you guys in the coming episode.
I fully agree with you, Diva. I think it's been a very long week here, the longest week actually of the Proving Ground split so far, Monday through Friday, 5 days of games. It's been great. It's been fun. But I think we all need a bit of a break before we come back for the real meat of the matter here, the Proving Grounds. And as much as I'm looking forward to that, because there's a lot of good games coming, I'm glad we get a week to reset. And as you said, Dia, prep our games, prep our information on the academy teams descending into Proving Grounds here. But till then, Dia, I cannot wait, and I am so excited.
Yeah, we got a lot of digging to do. A reminder, of course, if you enjoyed this episode and are interested in what we have to say, moving into Proving Grounds, that you can like, comment, subscribe, do all of the various interaction things that let us know that we matter in the world and that we aren't just talking into the void. I look forward to talking into the void with you some more next week, RMC, and we will catch you then. That's been all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of The Impact.